Hello everybody, and welcome to my channel, and I'm here to review the April 1984 issue of Pro Wrestling Illustrated with Ric Flair on the cover. This is one of the most popular covers. Everybody always talks about this Ric Flair cover, is that there's a famous picture of Shawn Michaels posing as Ric Flair holding this magazine. So I always look for this magazine. It took me forever to find it, but I did. I got it for under $15. It's not in the best of shape, it's ripped and everything, but I'm not trying to sell it. I'm just trying to read it. So let's get to reviewing. Here you got the table of contents of King Kong Bundy. Between the Falls, with fans right to the magazine. They're talking about Greg Valentine from the last cover of the magazine. They had words on him. A letter talking about Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff going to the WWF. From ringside with Bill Apter, it talks about the Von Erichs winning the six-man tag team championships from the Freebirds. Well, it was only two Freebirds. It was Terry Gordy and Buddy Roberts. Michael Hayes lost the loser leave town match to Kerry Von Erich on Thanksgiving, so he couldn't defend the third of the six-man titles. So Roberts and Gordy picked Ric Flair to be their partner, and Ric Flair got pinned by David Von Erich, and they lost the six-man titles. King is quote with by Peter King, and he's talking about Ricky Steamboat meeting with Ric Flair after the celebration, during the celebration of Rick winning the NWA World title from Harley Race. Steamboat said that once Ric Flair got that belt back, he could see in Rick's eyes that he was a changed man. He knew his friendship with Ric Flair would be ending because he knew Ric Flair was going to be all about that title. He wasn't going to care about friends anymore. He was going to be about living a lifestyle and carrying that title. And if he has to turn on a friend to do it, he will do it. So, and Ricky Steamboat realized that during that celebration after Rick won a title from Harley Race. Dressing Room Confidential with Stu Sachs Stu talks about how concerned he was with Eddie Gilbert after he came back from the car accident. He figured Eddie came back too soon. Then he was concerned about Eddie after he wrestled Mad Superstar, and the Mad Superstar re-injured his neck. And he was also wondering why did Bob Backlund allow Eddie to face the Superstar in the first place. So he's very concerned about Eddie Gilbert. What they are saying, this is a bunch of quotes from wrestlers. Let me read what Wahoo McDaniel has to say. I am very proud of my friend Ric Flair. After losing the title to Harley Race, he had to prove his worth all over again. He went out, wrestled all the top men, and fought his way back up the ratings. He took on Race in a cage match, the most dangerous type of match in the sport, and he won. He has proved that he is the best. I read that because this was at the end of '83. By maybe summer of '84, maybe earlier than that, Wahoo was mad that Ric Flair never gave him a shot at the title, and Wahoo McDaniel turns into a bad guy and turned on Rick. So it's just interesting to see where he was with Rick at the end of last year and how quickly that changed. Also read Hulk Hogan quote. This is when he was still in the AWA. Wrestling in a tag team with Andre the Giant has been a real learning experience. Andre isn't successful because of his size. He's successful because he knows how to utilize that size. A wrestler should never get the attitude that he knows it all. I've learned more from Andre in the last 2 months than I've learned in the previous 2 years. So that's Hulk Hogan talking about his friendship with Andre the Giant. He got back issues of The Wrestler, back issues of Inside Wrestling. On Assignment with Liz Hunter. where she just talked about going to Starcade and meeting all the fans and wondering why they would go to a Thanksgiving wrestling show instead of sitting at home having dinner for Thanksgiving, having turkey dinner, having Thanksgiving dinner. And they talked about how they love wrestling. There's been a wrestling show on Thanksgiving in the Crockett area for years. This is the first time it became Starcade, but they had it for years, and it's been a Thanksgiving tradition for a lot of people in that area. Off the Top Rope with Dan Shockett, where he talks about his love for the bad guys and how much he hates the good guys. He referred to the Von Erichs as the original Low, Mo, Larry, and Curly, the Three Stooges. Press conference with King Kong Bundy. In Focus, they have the PWI T-shirt contest, where if you can guess the wrestler and write it in, they will send you a T-shirt. If I can get a close up of this is obviously Nick Bockwinkel in his younger days. At least I think. I don't want to say it's obviously Nick Bockwinkel, but I think it's Nick Bockwinkel. I'm pretty sure it's Nick Bockwinkel. And they talk about Billy Jack Haynes, how he lost the North Pacific Championship and he's on a comeback trail to get it back. Billy Jack Haynes, he got a lot of write-up in the magazine. He was a big deal. Like guys like him and Scott Hall and Lex Luger, the magazines were crazy about those guys. And they never really, like Lex Luger did have a good career, and it took Scott Hall a while, but eventually he had a good career. But it just never panned out for Billy Jack Haynes. I guess his demons cost him, because he was never, I guess by 87 he was over with. Talks about Carlos Colon being able to put the figure 4 leg lock on Abdullah the Butcher at Starcade. Tommy Rich's war with Ted DiBiase, for glory or revenge. And it just talks about how when Ted DiBiase and Tommy Rich used to be friends when Ted DiBiase was in Georgia, but then he left Georgia, went to Mid-South, became a bad guy, and then came back to Georgia. And Tommy says it's not personal, and Ted said it's not personal, but they just wrestling for the the national heavyweight title. But they say they're both secretly, it is personal for both of them. If that makes any sense. Okay, the real story behind Hogan Andre tag team. Who will turn on the other first? They're saying that, these two big, strong guys will eventually turn on each other, since a couple of years ago they were already feuding with each other. When Hogan was a bad guy and he turned on, and he was feuding with Andre. But then Hulk Hogan became a good guy, and him and Andre became a regular tag team in the AWA. They were saying who would turn on each other first. And they were like a couple of years off, but they did eventually turn on each other. But it was years later in the WWF. Ric Flair whips Harley Race for the NWA title, a second chance at greatness. Of course, Ric Flair, beating Harley Race at Starcade 83. Winning the championship for the second time. Close up with Rocky Johnson. Yeah, the posters are already coming out of here, so. But at least it had the poster, so I can't complain. Rocky Johnson's greatest match against NWA World Champion Terry Funk in 1976. The match went to a draw. His most hated opponent is Magnificent Don Muraco. His toughest opponent is Ivan Koloff. And his favorite maneuver is a dropkick. The man who sacrificed stardom to Savage J.J. Dillon. This is about Mike Davis. When I first saw Mike Davis, he was part of a team called the Rock and Roll RPMs. That's the first time I saw him. I guess when he started out as a preliminary guy. But I don't know when he became somewhat of a big deal, but he went to Florida and JJ Dillon wanted to sign him to a contract, but Mike Davis refused, and JJ got mad and started a feud with him. But in this one-on-one match, it's Mike Davis that got revenge on JJ Dillon. Wrestling Inquirer, Harley Race lodges a protest with the NWA. He is mad about how he lost the title. He's mad. He thinks that Gene Kiniski cost him the championship in the way when Gene Kiniski fell, and then Ric Flair did a flying cross body press on the Harley Race, and Harley Race fell over Gene Kiniski. So there was interference by the referee, accidental interference, but Harley Race was pissed at Gene Kiniski. And it also in Wrestling Inquirer talks about how Captain Lou and the Samoans may be at odds with each other. I don't know if I know they eventually turned on Captain Lou eventually turned on them, but I'm not sure. I think it was later on in '84. And it also talks about Jim Cornette signs a new team to Mid South, which would be the Midnight Express, Bobby Eaton and Dennis Condrey. A young Jim Cornette. Matt Brock looking at Nikolai Volkov. Arena Report, where correspondents talk about covered WWF matches all around the Northeast. Eventually, they would start doing all promotions, but I guess they just started with WWF. Continuation of the Tommy Rich Ted DiBiase story. Ringside continues and also talks about King Kong Bundy joining Paul Ellering's stable in the Legion of Doom. Talks about Nikolai Volkov jumping Dusty Rhodes. Talk about Carlos Colon renewing his feud with Abdullah the Butcher. Continuation of the Ric Flair vs. Harley Race feud story. Continuation of the story between Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat, how Ricky Steamboat knew as soon as Flair won that title, he became a changed man. This month in The Wrestler, now that the brothers Brett Wayne and Buzz Sawyer are together again, they are facing inevitable tragedy. And in this month in Inside Wrestling, Sergeant Slaughter squares off against Blackjack Mulligan in a brutal meeting of two rugged ex-Marines. Well, I know Blackjack Mulligan was a Marine. I don't know about that. I don't know about Slaughter. Continuation of the story about Eddie Gilbert and how Stu Sachs didn't think Eddie was up to the challenge of returning to wrestling. But Eddie was confident in himself that he was ready, and he was ready, and he had a great career. Even though it was cut short, but he did have a great career. Continuation of On the Assignment with Liz Hunter, where she's continuing talking to the fans that attended Starrcade. Some back issues. Continuation of the Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant tag team. I did not know Hulk Hogan fought Blackjack Mulligan. That's actually a match I would like to see. I hope that's on tape somewhere. I would like to see Hulk Hogan versus Blackjack Mulligan. Continuation of Between the Falls letters. There's a fan who loved Curt Hennig in the Pacific Northwest and wish he would return there. The Pro Wrestling Illustrated ratings. I read the top 10. Number 1, Ric Flair. Number 2, Andre the Giant. Number 3, Hulk Hogan. Number 4, Nick Bockwinkel. Number 5, Dusty Rhodes. Number 6, David Von Erich. Number 7, Barry Windham. Number 8, Bob Backlund. Number 9, Harley Race. Number 10, Mills Mascaras. And at the time, WWF had issues with Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and I guess they kicked all the photographers out of the buildings. So Pro Wrestling Illustrated stripped the world status from WWF. So that's why they got Bob Backlund, who was the WWF World Champion. They got him ranked number 8. but because I guess they have they stripped them of the world title status, so they took the world championship from them. They considered the WWF was not a world championship, which was funny because WWF was the first company that started touring really around the world. Well, no, NWA did it first, so, but WWF did it more consistently, where they toured all around the world. Ratings analysis. The wrestling album. I guess with just posters and color pictures. Okay, this has been a review of the April 1984 issue of Pro Wrestling Illustrated. I just say thanks for watching.